Forms of business organizations. One of the most important decisions a business owner can make is how to legally organize or form their business and their business structure. Now, many business owners don't have any idea what the ramifications are of a particular business form, or even aware of the types, the varieties of organizations they can choose from. So that's why they need the guidance of an attorney and also tax advisors, because there are huge implications for liability matters and tax matters that hinge on the business choice. Now, these business organizations are largely based on state law, not federal law, but state law, the actual formation of the business and the rights of the owners and the investors. It's a matter of state law. And there are differences from state to state. And the main thing to keep in mind is that all of these business forms have both advantages and disadvantages. And therefore, the choice of form really depends on the needs of the owner or the owners or investors. Let's take a look at sole proprietor. We'll be looking at just an overview of the main, most common business forms. First one, sole proprietor. Sole proprietor is the simplest business form. It is a business that is owned by an individual. So let's look at that word individual first. An individual, that's a human being, a natural person. We're going to deal with this word person in just a moment here. So a sole proprietor is going to be a human being, an individual that owns the business all by themselves, not with anyone else, but by themselves. That's why they're a sole proprietor. The owner is the business. The business is the owner. They're one and the same. It's the simplest business form that we have. And one of the downsides is that the owner is personally liable for the debts. If the business owner is going to be doing, the sole proprietor is going to be doing business in a name other than their own name, if they're going to have like an assumed name or a business name, even though they're sole proprietor, we do have to file of public record what that business name is and who the owner of it is. So if I had a hamburger stand and I wanted to call it Dave's Hamburgers, well, no one knows who Dave is. Well, I've got to file an assumed name form with the county clerk. Sometimes that form is called a DBA, a doing business as form. Next business form we're just taking a look at here is partnerships. Now, a partnership is two or more people carrying on business together for profit, and that's the key. It's for profit. If you're not for profit, then you're really not in business. It's two or more, so it could be 2, 3, 4, or more. I think about large law firms, for example, have many partners. Now, even though they may be called partners, it's the relationship of these partners and from one business to another is going to differ greatly, because all of these partnerships will be organized with something called a partnership agreement. It's an agreement, a contract among the partners. Now, 2 or more persons. What's a person? You know, we saw what an individual was on the previous board. Now we're talking about a person. A person is going to be a much broader term. It could be a natural person, you know, in the term individual that we talked about before, human being, or it could be an artificial person, an artificial entity. And that's what a partnership is. A partnership is an artificial entity, but it's still considered a person. A corporation is also a person. So think about it, two or more persons making up the partnership. You could have two corporations coming together into a partnership. So that's why we define the word person so broadly. Each partner in the partnership is going to be personally responsible for the debts and obligations of that partnership. And that's going to be one of the downsides. Now, there's going to be several varieties of partnerships. There's something we call a general partnership, where all the partners are equal and equal in that they all have a say-so in the business. They all have a say-so, a responsibility for obligations. There's going to be something called a limited partnership, where some partners are going to be called general partners and liable for the debts, and other partners will have a limited liability for those debts. So there's a lot more detail needs to be gone into there, but once again, you have a partnership agreement that will set that out. It's also something called a limited liability partnership. So if you're going to be a general partnership and you're going to be operating, obviously it's not in a person's name, but they'll have some sort of business name. You have to file, once again, an assumed name, a doing business as form with the county clerk. Now, these other business forms, limited partnership, limited liability companies, file those with the Texas Secretary of State to set those organizations up. Corporations. Corporations are a legal entity distinct from their owners. As I mentioned on the previous board, a corporation is considered a person. Now, we had a presidential candidate that on the campaign trail made the statement, well, corporations are people too, and he got lambasted for it. But you know what? He's right. Corporations are a person. They can be sued, they can be charged with a crime, they can lend money, borrow money, so they can be part of a partnership, as we saw on the previous board. So a corporation is a legal entity that is distinct from its owners, and its owners are called shareholders. Shareholders, or sometimes called stockholders, but shareholders. And the company the corporation is managed by an elected board of directors. Who elects this board of directors? The shareholders. The shareholders have a shareholder meeting and elect a board of directors, and the board of directors set broad policy for the company and run it and hire people to do the everyday affairs of the company. The investors, as I said before, there's pluses and minuses to all these business forms. The investors are protected from personal liability on the debts of the corporation. That's one of the nice things about corporation. They're protected from personal liability. Now, there's some disadvantages though. Formalities of filing all the paperwork with the Secretary of State to get it filed. And another disadvantage that we won't go into here, but just make mention of it, is the notion of double taxation. When the corporation makes profit, it's going to be taxed by the federal government, income tax, and maybe by the state too, depends on the state. When they pass those profits on to the shareholders as a dividend, well, the shareholders are going to have to pay tax too. So the same profit is being taxed two times. That's why we call it double taxation. Now, there are going to be several variations of corporation as well. That will take advantage or mute some of these disadvantages or enhance some of the other advantages that we're talking about, but there are several varieties of corporations. Then we have what is called a limited liability company, and it's kind of a hybrid between a partnership and a corporation. It's going to have features of both. It does protect the owners, the investors, from personal liability. It's going to be a little bit simpler than a full-blown corporation would be. And one of the nice things about this that you can escape the double taxation that would be with corporations. Like I said, it's kind of a hybrid between the two, of a corporation and a partnership. And once again, you file those documents with the Secretary of State to form that corporation, that particular business form. So this is just a very, very quick overview of the various business forms that would be available to a business owner.